doing it live. Our ode to Bill O'Reilly.
News.
Welcome, David. What'd you say?
I just said the fucking news, and that's because we have Jonathan Larson. I gotta say, Cliff, and look, this is Cliff Schechter over here. This is Jonathan Larson over here. I'm David Schuster. Jonathan Larson is one of my favorite people that I've ever worked with in cable or television
Thanks
news.
a lot.
He is also literally my favorite investigative reporter of all time. And he's got this, not only the Substack, the fucking news, but he also Jonathan Larson. And he broke a huge story this week that turns out, Cliff, and maybe to summarize this, if I say, and Jonathan, you tell me if I got this right.
Hold on.
If I say that Jesus wants us to win the war in Iran, I'm now qualified to be an admiral.
Right? But hold on. I need to say you are correct on that.
Okay.
I also want to point out that the bottom half of the hour, we also have an awesome congressional candidate will be coming on. And we'll leave a little bit of a surprise, but a candidate who can win in the great state of Indiana, where David hails from, and our producer Lawrence, and we're excited for that too. But first, let's get to fucking killing people for God. Right? Am I right?
So a couple of things. Jonathan, I mean, to get this set up, the U.S. military is doing fine, right? I mean, we've got air superiority. We've got making all sorts of progress, that apparently degrading Iran's missiles, yada, yada, yada. The military is doing fine. But it turns out that, like, over the weekend, Pete Hegseth basically said to like hundreds of different units, or the hundreds of different units. Well, you tell me, you take it away.
No, that's okay. It was not Hegseth.
Okay.
It was not Hegseth. And I do want to add, first of all, thank you, of course, for that incredibly ridiculous introduction. If folks don't know, I worked with David at MSNBC, and it was a pure joy. And
I'd like to point out, I thought I got along with David pretty well too, and we were good friends here and stuff. But now I'm a little hurt. I'm not gonna fucking lie to you.
We learn something every day.
We do, like I need to learn how to grow up and handle my emotions, and I'll get there.
We've only
just like you got to learn how to grow a good beard. I mean, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
So the reason I say that it's not Hegseth, what I mean by that is we don't know. As far as we're aware, what happened was a bunch of different commanders in, I guess it's now up to 50 units have been reported, have made remarks to their NCOs and their troops, suggesting either that they believe or that everyone else should believe that, this is part of end times prophecy. Donald Trump is where he is because God wants him there to do the work of getting us.
Can they really believe God would take a look at all the people alive and be like, yeah, the slovenly one that slaps the mixture of like sweat and orange goo on his face, who's a convict and an adjudicated rapist and is in the Epstein files for molesting young girls, God help us, and also got busted for $25 million for Trump University and got banned from ever starting any kind of a foundation again because he was breaking the law, and is the father of Eric and Tiffany, maybe even worse. Should I keep going or just let you go?
I mean, I'm curious to see whether you.
I think I actually could have kept going there for an hour. I would have gotten to how he ties his ties down below his dick, doesn't even know how to do that. Okay, go ahead.
There's actually an interesting case to be made for Donald Trump as the appointee. And what I mean by that is evangelical Protestantism over the last few hundred years has developed an interpretation, an exegesis of the Antichrist that works very well as a weapon against popular politicians, right? The Antichrist in the Bible, or in the modern day Protestant interpretation of the Antichrist, is not some 10-horned monster. It's a very popular.
So not Jewish, then you're saying?
Wow, it's not.
I'm talking about in the way they always say we have horns. I'm talking about their perspective.
So what their interpretation of the Antichrist is a popular leader who unites the world without violence through diplomacy, basically, and that's not Trump. So you can actually make a pretty good case, and what that does, of course, is that makes it very tough to be a popular, peaceful politician without drawing accusations that you're the Antichrist. So what we have instead is Trump, who, if you take the converse of the Protestant Antichrist, okay, maybe he was anointed by God, because he's definitely not those Antichrist things,
Well, so over the weekend, look, it's not just these 50 different units that are, I guess, told by the commanders, hey, this is a religious war. This is all about, and I guess in one case about triggering Armageddon. But then you were also reporting that there were Bible studies that were suddenly scheduled or told to the troops, hey, we're gonna have some Bible studies on Saturday and Sunday related to, seems like the timing was related to Iran.
And it was the Old Testament, right?
What was the Old Testament?
The Bible studies.
Well, we don't know, and I should point out, it's really important to note that both of these stories, yes, David, I did a subsequent report today about those Bible studies. Both of these come from the Military Religious Freedom Foundation, which for more than 20 years now has been helping service members, usually Christian service members, who are having their First Amendment religious freedoms infringed upon,
right,
by religious zealot commanders.
Right. The guy, I have to say quickly, in serious note, like the guy, that head of their, Mikey Weinstein, who's a terrific guy. I did some work with them on the PR front. I want to say it was like a decade ago. I mean, he was a Reagan appointee. He's such an interesting story because, again, he was never Trump, came from the conservative, movement. So I don't know if he came from the movement, but conservative, Jewish, in the military, all of that, and saw what was going on with the evangelical, the proselytization. Yeah, there we go. I'm combining words, but the proselytizing going on in the military. And he started this organization, and they've been incredibly, I think, effective, at least at getting people's attention, Yeah,
and I would go beyond that, because this is a problem that we see in both administrations. It's Democrats too. We see this strain of white Christian nationalism. The U.S. Air Force Academy has been notorious for it, but the Pentagon, under both administrations, prior to current administration notwithstanding, has been pretty responsive, as far as I'm aware, and they obviously take seriously what the MRFF and Mikey Weinstein have to say. As far as I'm aware, they've never disputed the factual allegations that the MRFF has taken action on. And on multiple occasions, they have, yes, taken down that cross, removed that Bible display, eliminated that Bible study, or whatever it might be. So yeah, absolutely. They have a long pedigree of effectiveness and credibility on these issues. And what I was told today was they have received 14 new complaints. I shouldn't say new. Some of these may have been simultaneous with the other complaints, the Armageddon complaints, that said from 5 different installations across 3 different branches of the military. I'm assuming not Space Force, but to your point, David, there are Bible studies that happen, right? Lots of commanders sort of abuse their position, and they say, hey, if anyone wants to, as if it's not career suicide not to, come on by the house and we're going to hold a Bible study. So people are pressed into this on a regular basis, but those tend to be either recurring things, or they schedule them in advance enough for people to plan them. After the US bombs dropped on Israel on early Saturday morning, word went out at these 5 installations, as I said, that tomorrow, the very day after, we're going to have a Bible study. Now, we don't know for sure we don't know whether the allegation is that it was specific to Iran and a response, but the correlation is there in a way that strongly implies causation. We don't know what happened at the Bible study meetings, because none of the people who complained about it actually attended them. So we have yet to hear any sort of allegations or accounts of what may have happened.
I'm a little confused about the Armageddon part, so forgive me for not being so well versed in this. But what the goal of triggering Armageddon? How would that sort of? I mean, for people who believe this, and I suppose it's at least one of the military commanders who's all gung ho about triggering Armageddon. What does that do? I mean, how does Iran play into that, and Israel? Explain how that would sort of work in their mind.
So there are a whole list of things that are, again, in this unique, relatively recent interpretation of the Bible, that are required to happen before the really good things can happen, right? Lots of bad things happen first, then the good things. And so it's not that they want Armageddon necessarily, it's just that they know we don't get the good things until these other things happen.
Armageddon, I mean, this is the rapture. They get sucked up to heaven, right? And things are awesome for them. Like the rest of us, like maybe you get sucked up to heaven, Jonathan, as a godly man, but me and David get to take all of their stuff, which I'm psyched about, because I assume it doesn't go with them.
So the Armageddon,
like in a Terminator machine, they couldn't bring non-human tissue through. So I'm going to assume like I get their car and their house, and no.
Well, it depends. If you're one of the 144,000
so you know
who convert, then you're all set. If not, then it gets a little dicey for you.
Okay.
But I should be clear: Armageddon is not the rapture. The rapture is not in the Bible. Basically, it's a misreading of an Aramaic phrase that says Jesus will come in the clouds, which was an idiom that means he will come in glory. And some folks in the 1700s or so decided that it meant literally he will be coming in the clouds. And so the idea was, if he's gathering his church in the clouds, that's where people will be going. So
I thought you meant something else much worse.
No,
and I've been too much Epstein file stuff out there probably. I was like,
yeah. And then there are also arguments about the sequence of these things. There's dispensationalists, millennialists, premillennialists. They all argue about whether the 1,000-year reign on earth comes before or after the rapture. There's all kinds of this stuff, which I'm sorry to those who believe, but it's all kind of Dungeons and Dragons to me, and clerics and dwarves and elves. It's all of a piece.
But the bottom line is that we have to have essentially this huge end times, this catastrophe, right? Where most people on earth are incinerated or die or whatnot, in order to usher in those who are saved, who have this wonderful period of time with their God or whatever. And so the idea is, by attacking Iran and by Israel being involved in this, that we may be triggering some sort of World War III Armageddon type thing that will eventually usher in great times.
That's right. And it's not necessarily, there's not enough evidence in the Bible to make it geo-specific. So right. As MRFF's senior researcher Chris Rada pointed out, we saw this after the October 7th attacks. We also saw this arguably more justifiably in the Iraq War. Iraq is where Babylon actually is. Like, it's literally there. So, you know, if you're going in for this kind of stuff, yeah, okay, that's the best argument I've heard. There it is. It's Babylon sitting right there. So but of course the point is that these prophecies are sufficiently vague that credulous people just sort of recycle them and fall for it time after time for whatever psychological reasons make them predisposed to fall for it. And a lot of those people end up in the military. And I think it's important to point out that a lot of military commanders and troops and all that are not of that mindset and are doing, I think we can assume, good, credible, serious, grown-up jobs of leading their troops through what's got to be an extraordinarily frightening and stressful time. So, you know, we're not talking about everyone. And the Pentagon did not respond to my request for comment about the Armageddon stuff. And we don't know. I'm not aware of a single allegation that this came from the top, anywhere higher than unit commanders taking individual initiative. So I want to make sure no one's jumping the gun and saying this is a Pentagon thing. There's no evidence to that effect that I'm aware of.
So, yeah, you don't have proof of that, except for, you know, Pete Hegseth is kind of.
I mean, he does set the tone. I mean,
he is kind of Pete Hegseth. I'm going to ask a quick question along these lines. So, I mean, did somebody sort of come to you with this? Were there people trying to kind of, you know, alarmed, who were sort of, you know, saying, please tell people that this kind of crap is going on? Or were you searching for some things and came across it? Like, how did you come about
It's
you know,
it's a
upon this.
boring, unsexy, probably pretty normal journalism story.
All
I
right.
know folks there, and we were talking. Like that's pretty much it.
That's as good a reason as any.
Good sources. So, Jonathan, you mentioned the Iraq War, and Cliff, you'll remember this as well. That back in 2003, and for people who remember the MSNBC days, I was actually in Qatar, and I'll never forget that there was such euphoria after about 4 or 5 weeks because U.S. troops were suddenly in Baghdad, like they sprinted through the desert. They had quick military superiority. And then they were at the Baghdad airport and was like, oh my God, look how dominant the U.S. military has been. And there was just this euphoria of like mission accomplished. And in fact, George W. Bush actually landed on the Abraham Lincoln, the U.S. aircraft carrier, with this big mission accomplished banner. And then a year later, I was in Baghdad and there were 3 suicide bombings a day and the elections were a mess. And it became very clear that, okay, even though with overwhelming military superiority, if you don't have a very clear plan for what you're going to do next, there's all sorts of problems. And that takes us, Jonathan, to sort of for all the success the U.S. military has had. And you can say, sure, they've accomplished the degrading of the Iranian missiles. They got superiority. Maybe they have forced some sort of regime change, although we don't know what regime is going to come next. But the lack of planning for how they actually help the Iranian people get this secular democracy that we want, that's a problem, right?
Well, I should be clear that military stuff and strategy, not my beat. I've got no more insights than you guys do. And David, you've been there. But I will say that Trump's plan seems to be pretty clear. The question is whether it's good. And look, I can understand why he was.
Why would you question a plan of Trump's? I mean, they're usually so well thought ahead. And I mean, never spur of the moment. There's always very complex and intellectual. They solve the problem at hand. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
But well, I mean, all I was going to say was that like he's been spoiled all his life, but certainly in Venezuela, right? That was remarkably clean, not counting 80 people dead in Venezuela, but literally not a single U.S. fatality that they told us about. And they've got an apparently compliant leader running things in Venezuela now. If I were Trump, I would be tempted to say, cool, let's do this somewhere else. And he has said specifically, he was asked yesterday, what now? And he basically said, well, the people have a chance to do something. And so that's his plan. And look,
the people have a chance to do something is a pretty complex and forward-thinking plan.
I mean, so there has been some forward thinking here, which is that they have for a while now, they've been arming Iranian Kurdish dissidents who are holed up across the border in Iraq. And I forget where I read it, but this is not my own reporting, but I included it in the fucking news this morning. There's reporting that thousands of Kurds may be launching a ground offensive within days. And both the Israeli and the U.S. Airstrikes have been targeting not just Iran's offensive and defensive air capacities, but also the police state within Iran, which is precisely the people who would crack down on a popular uprising. So there does seem to be some degree of let's try to make this happen. Does that mean it's thought out and planned the way you were suggesting? I wouldn't want to vouch for that.
Well, I mean, again, like, I don't know, James, it's whenever I honestly, when I see the news or I see sort of Democrats or anyone go beyond, I mean, the fake taking Trump seriously, I can live with. We all have to do that to a certain degree and pretend. But when they actually sort of act like, I really, like they're angry, like I'm red because we haven't seen a plan from Donald Trump. And I'm just like, are you looking at the same person as me? Have you been alive the last decade the way I have? Like, what you should be doing is not asking for a plan, but pointing out quite obviously there is none, because there's never any plan, because that's not what he does. He just acts in a way that makes him feel good at the moment. And then, everything scatters, blows up in different directions. And we either end up lucky, which usually we don't, or it ends up being a disaster like ICE, or like, Venezuela in terms of the at least in terms of the people killed and the people in the boats who were being targeted, and LA and Minneapolis and Chicago. And it's what he does. It's what he's always done. I don't just say that to kind of rip these people, but it would be better if we had people that took him at who he is and analyzed and responded to him that way, it seems to me.
Well, look, you've kind of hit on a sore spot for me. This is something I've been thinking about for a while, although probably not long enough. I forget who it was. Maybe her name was Andrea Pritzker. I can't remember now, but she wrote a piece about ICE, about the conversation around ICE and DHS and all of that. And the argument was, and I feel like I'm getting her name wrong, so I apologize to the real author, but the argument was basically, if you go out there and you argue for reform, you're suggesting that the core mission and the core structure and the core directives that it's pursuing are okay. You're institutionalizing and normalizing, just as was done with the DHS in its early days. And I feel like the same calculus applies to what you're talking about, Cliff, which is, time after time, Democrats are faced not with, they're still operating on the old model. The old model used to be journalist exposes something, and usually Republican politicians are kind of cagey about whether it was true or not. They display some awareness that it would be bad if it were true. What we have now is we don't have the journalism part. We have Pete Hegseth or Donald Trump posting online, hey, just killed some people in boats. And so now the entire narrative is upended. And so, but Democrats are still resorting to the we need facts thing.
Well, and let's be honest, that's only if they have space between their posting about certain former presidents being apes or, things of that nature.
Sure. But the point is, Democrats are still operating in the mode of, oh, it seems like something might have happened. He just told you it happened, and he did it. So by demanding information, which is what they did with the boat strikes, which is what they did with Venezuela,
right,
which is what they're now doing with Iran, by demanding information, it's self-serving, because it means they don't have to be on the spot of jumping ahead to where they should be, which is, well, that's a crime, and we may not have the mechanism to ensure accountability now, but we're gonna. And that, by the way, would in theory provide some incentive for anyone who can see ahead longer than a year not to do crimes now, the idea that they will be pursued. So,
right. And I think that gets to Cliff, I think what you're talking about is it feels like Democrats are focused on sort of the wrong stuff, right? So the Democrats are focused on what are the facts, or what is the one I've heard lately, what are the reasons for war? Well, there are several reasons for it. It could be that Trump wants the oil. It could be that Trump wants to stop nukes. It could be that Trump wants to degrade missiles. It could be that Trump wants regime change. It could be that he wants to sexually modern state. It could be all of that together. The issue is not what's the reason for war. Shouldn't Democrats be focused on the fact that whatever Trump is doing, he's doing without congressional approval? You can't go to war without Congress.
He's doing it illegally and unconstitutionally. It is, depending on the poll you look at, but it's got the popularity between 25 and 30%. It started off as like the least popular war we've ever been in, and as numerous, national, like military and other analysts point out, wars almost never get more popular as they go on. They tend to get less popular as they go on. So people don't want this. His own base doesn't want this, but all of us don't want this. There's no justification given. It's illegal. He didn't go to Congress. He also has not even tried to explain it to the American people in a coherent,
I want to stop you right there in terms of all of us don't want this. I think all of us do want. We would love for Iran to be what it was pre-1979, right?
No, but that's a different
modern
thing,
secular
David.
state. I would love that. And I would even love a discussion about what it is the United States could do to try to get to that point. But we haven't had that discussion. We've just had, let's bomb them.
No, and I agree with you. That's a different discussion, though. Do I want mullahs that mass murder, women for not wearing hijabs and stuff running Iran? Absolutely not. I don't want that. But the discussion still is, we did this in Libya. We did this in Iraq, we've done this in places. It never works. Taking off a government out and creating chaos is never helps anybody. It leads usually to mass death. There's a better way than these guys. You're right. I would love a secular Iran, but I would
cast a vote for Iran 1953, not 1979, right?
Right,
It's worth
before it started.
I mean, it's got to. If Iran were a person, think about how they're being gaslit, right? They elect someone who's roughly a democratic socialist. The CIA helps kick that guy out, replaces him with the Shah of Iran.
Right. They were like going to nationalize the economy. I'm kidding. We were such bastards. I mean, for that period of time, we're evil. We are.
Yeah, and look, it's like one form of government after another. I mean, Iran, I'm guessing, will eventually conclude, oh, we're supposed to have free market capitalism, and that's it. That's the only option apparently that's available to us. And just to be clear, I'm entirely in agreement with as someone who writes a lot about theocratic impulses and growing power in the U.S. being bad, I'm very not okay with harsh, oppressive, non-democratic theocracies running any country, certainly Iran included. But I also, David, I want to get back to your point about like motive. Like I always think about this in terms of like the cops, right? When they roll up on a bank robbery in progress, they don't stop and try to figure out whether they're doing it because they're Breaking Bad because their medical insurance didn't cover something, or whether they're just greedy. They arrest the guys.
Yeah.
Motive comes later. You figure that out in the trial. That's to get a conviction once there's a trial.
But I think that's part of it, right? I mean, because they do that on purpose. As somebody who worked, they said a number of years, or maybe another show, got too many shows, but on the issue of guns, one of the reasons Republicans always go to, why did the shooter do it? Is because they don't want you talking about the guns. That no matter what reason a shooter did it, somebody who absolutely should not have had access to a deadly weapon, much less an AR-15, easily had access to that. And they would rather have you talking about the shooter. So it sounds a lot like that to me. This does anyhow, right? Motive doesn't matter. What matters is, what are we doing? How are we doing it? What's the plan? What's it going to end? The end result going to be? And I sit here and, I know I don't want to be too derisive, but a large percentage of our country cannot point to some of these places on a map in any study that they show. And if you know that Iraq is next to Iran, which is next to Afghanistan, and the Taliban is basically back in control with some warlords and whatever on one end. And you know that on the other side, Iraq is chaos depending on the day. And you know that Sunni and Shia are fighting each other in Iraq, and there's that potential in Iran. Not to mention, we're not even talking about Syria here. I mean, you could have a complete region of instability, of just complete chaos. And if you go through those countries I talked about, you get to the end of the line, you're at Pakistan that has a nuclear weapon. And I'm not saying that's the way it's going to happen. I'm just saying it seems to me, as horrible as Iran is, creating more chaos right there doesn't seem to be a really smart idea.
And I think it's worth flagging also along those same lines, Cliff, the history of anytime you scratch one of these conflicts, you find someone, very often the US, is arming or funding someone with the goal of checking someone else, right? We found out after October 7th that Netanyahu had couriered money to Hamas to counter the influence of the Palestinian Authority.
And the bad guy that he could point to and stay in power and scare people.
Iran-Contra was to provide weapons to the Iranian regime, the Ayatollah, the actual Ayatollah, to help counter the growing power of Saddam Hussein. And we're now arming the Kurdish rebels, who I'm sure we've armed before, and by the way, have gotten screwed by believing that we would get their back in the past.
Right, in Syria, we pulled out and left them vulnerable. So they're not. You sort of wonder why they would trust the United States to begin with, right?
I mean, I suppose I don't know if they trust us. They'll probably, if we're giving them arms, we'll take them. But you're right. Why they would ever trust us after what we did to them? I mean, we left them there for twice. I think we've left them there for for murder. Certainly for Saddam Hussein, and we haven't done much to protect him from Erdogan either.
Jonathan, I got to ask you before we wrap this up with you, where do you think the war in Iran is going? How does it end? If it does end, what do the next couple of weeks look like in your estimation?
Yeah, I mean,
do we have any other good wars planned for the future?
well,
I'm sorry, I don't know how not to like. It's
they
so
are
absurd.
They did just launch a joint Ecuadorian strike force against narco terrorists in Ecuador. So maybe we'll have the 8th country now that Trump has bombed. But I mean, my hope is that we get something like, I mean, look, obviously the hope is that we get a bloodless revolution leading to an enlightened Western style Northern Scandinavian socialist democracy. My guess, or the best realistic hope, I think, is that we get some sort of accommodation, as we saw in Venezuela, where there's a leader in place who is sufficiently palatable to most of the powers that be on the ground in Iran, but also willing to make at least symbolic performative concessions to the Trump administration to enable the ultimate indisputable goal, which is for Trump to be able to say, however credibly, I win.
Right. Can I add one more quick question? It's a little off, so it's interesting because I asked some folks if they wanted to ask us questions here. We got a question. Yeah. It was Trish, I believe, over in on the Substack side. I'm going back and forth between there and here. And what she'd asked before is, does this in a way, I don't know if she asked it ironically, help the Russians because the price of oil ends up going up? And I suppose they've got supplies of that kind of thing and in a way help them against Ukraine.
I mean, there's certainly arguments out there that this helps Russia vis-a-vis Ukraine. For one thing, America seems to be very quickly depleting a lot of the arsenal that might, in theory, have been of use to Ukraine. The price of oil and gas going up certainly provides a bump. I'm not sure how material that is to Putin's success. He's and investment and commitment. He seems pretty willing to just barge ahead regardless of where the numbers are that day. But my larger argument is that I think Putin's influence globally has been dramatically damaged because, as we've seen with Venezuela and with, I'm blanking on the third one now, and Iran, we're seeing maybe Cuba you could throw in there. We're seeing these patron states, right, of Russia that not only have alliances with Russia, but also to some extent reside within some presumed security under Russia's penumbra, right? The idea that they're covered, they're protected by Putin. All of these people are falling without Putin raising a finger for them. And my estimation would be that makes it much more difficult for Putin to sustain, let alone build new alliances where people have any incentive to have fealty to him or economic ties, when Trump can just take that away in a moment and apparently won't do anything about it. So I think it's a little bit.
That's a great point. I mean, if you look at the two countries, they both were supposed to be protected by, that we've attacked by their relationships with Russia and now Cuba we're talking about. So yeah, that really is interesting. I hadn't thought about it from that perspective, which is why we have you on, Jonathan, because you're the guy who runs the fucking news is so fucking smart that we just have.
And he's also got JonathanLarson.substack.com. So you've got two Substacks. He's got the fucking news, which is basically the news with hilarious F-bombs and ridicule and all that kind of stuff. But then there's the more serious. Now they're both serious. There's a serious investigative reporting Substack, Jonathan Larson, under your own name. And folks, I got to tell you, in addition to subscribing to Blue Amp Media and reading it every day, the first thing that I do every morning, although it's not the first thing because sometimes it doesn't come out first thing, but I read the fucking news and I read JonathanLarson.com. And it's just, I mean, I'm telling you, if you want to stay on top of the news and you want to laugh and have a good chuckle and admire somebody's wit, subscribe to the fucking news and to Jonathan Larson's Substack.
Fully endorsed. Brilliant stuff and funny as hell in a way that Not enough political stuff is. So,
and I want to make sure people are aware that whatever investigative reporting I'm doing is in the footsteps of a real guy, David Schuster. That's how I got to know David, was because he was actually doing investigative reporting, not on a silly little blog, but for MSNBC, on the national news all the time, breaking stories.
Here we go again with you guys loving each other. I'm just sitting off
back in the
corner,
days,
you know.
back when you actually go and meet people for drinks and sally up to them near the grand jury or stake them out at the courthouse, and you didn't have to worry about posting on social media, the good old days. So it's a different world of investigative reporting now, though. So
in all seriousness, you both are brilliant investigative reporters, and I'm lucky to be here with David all the time. And Jonathan, your work's incredible, and so please keep breaking important stories like this.
Thank you, and it helps. It helps immensely to have the support of such a robust, committed platform as Blue Amp. So thank you to the end of the world for all the support you've given me.
Our pleasure, man.
Great to be on with you as always. So, Cliff, we have some important politics news to talk about as well. First of all, Democrats, James Tallarico, turns out he's the winner, I guess, of the Senate primary in Texas over Jasmine Crockett, although some questions about the Republican malfeasance and whatnot. But there are some other primaries coming up, and there's a great race, a great congressional race in Indiana featuring Kelly Thompson, who joins us now. Kelly, it's
Indiana 3.
Indiana, your congressional candidate. Is the second or the third district that you're
Third.
running for?
Third district. Yep.
Third district, Indiana, traditionally a pretty staunch Republican-leaning district, and you, in fact, were Republican in 2016, and then you looked at
2016.
So, tell us about your journey and about your campaign, and what's going on in northeastern Indiana.
And can I say one thing quickly, just first, which is your, I guess, slogan? What do you want to call it? Run like a mother.
Running like a mother.
I love that one. That would fit into Jonathan's publication, maybe. Who knows? So,
you can finish that however you'd like. It means a standalone sentence, and also, do it.
Yeah, the other thing too.
Yeah, the other thing too. Exactly right. It's okay to laugh a little bit, right? Okay.
That's why we do our best to do that. Yes.
Good.
And the reason, look, I mean, one of the reasons I'm so fascinated with Indiana is I grew up in southern Indiana in Bloomington in the bloody 8th congressional district. But northern Indiana politics a little bit different, but all things Hoosier I love, and so we're so happy to have you on the show.
Yeah, and I'll say quickly, I don't live there, but I'm in Cincinnati, and I take a little drive from here, and I'm in Indiana, the tri-state area. So we're not just some East Coasters, kind of coming in here to you. We at least have a little knowledge of the region.
Yeah, we're cousin-esque, right? I mean, all of us kind of here. We get it. So northern Indiana, but yeah, my district is 13 counties, 4,300 square miles in the northeast corner of the state. I am a business owner. I am a nonprofit founder. I am a mother of 6 and a grandmother of soon to be 13. And I'm running.
That's a lot of present money right there.
This was the first Christmas that I said, nope, I'm not doing it. I didn't buy one Christmas gift this year. So, and they all survived just fine, right? After a while, you got to figure out everybody's got everything they need, and I'm not buying one more plastic thing for anybody. So,
right.
But I ran for office the first time in 2020. You referenced the fact that I was a Republican until 2026, and that's because church told me I was supposed to be honest with you.
I mean, 2016?
I'm sorry, 2016. Yeah. Exactly. Thank you. Yep. And when I saw Donald Trump descend that famous escalator, I was like, this can't be true. And then when I saw him win the nomination, I was baffled, as was, I think, even he was. Then when it came time for me to vote, there was no fucking way I was going to vote for this guy. No way. I had read his books. I had researched him. I knew he was a con man. I knew everything he touched died. And I was really hoping he would lose. However, he did not, as we all know. So 2020 rolled around. And during the 10-year period before 2020, I had spent my time trying to help our local youth. We have a high school of less than 1,000 kids here. We were losing 2 kids a year to suicide. And it was somewhat of an epidemic. And I thought, these are kids my kids knew. We all went to school together. We knew these families, and I thought I have to do something. So in the interest of time, I'm going to just surmise here that I started a nonprofit helping those students know that they were loved and lovable exactly the way they are. And then I knew that in helping them, I was going to have to help their families. So I started a counseling center to help their
Oh,
parents
wow.
parents that they really wanted to be. I partnered with our local public schools to identify the kids that could use some extra summer school work. I brought in registered teachers from other states so that these kids could start over with a fresh start and really learn with no preconceived notions of who they are. All that to say, I found myself at the end of about 10 years with this treasure chest full of stories that these families had entrusted me with. And I took them to my legislators and I said, "You must not know. This is what they're dealing with. These are the solutions that could help them." And I was met with stares. They didn't care. They weren't going to listen to me. They weren't taking notes. And I realized, oh my God, I've been living under the assumption that a representative government was comprised of individuals who wanted to represent us and actually fight for us and for the things that we needed. And
Right.
it was at that point that I said, they need to go. And somebody like me needs to win and represent these people. So I worked so hard during a pandemic for 6 months to try to flip a district. And while we didn't flip it, we did get 45% voter penetration and did so well that when the GOP redistricted in
Of
2021,
course.
carved right up around my house. So nobody who voted for me could ever vote for me again if I ever ran for a House seat. So I sat out for a minute until November of 2024. And when Trump won again, it wasn't disbelief, it was panic. My family is black, white, brown, gay, straight, trans, single mama of a daughter, union worker, business owners, artists, musicians. My mother has stage 4 cancer. I mean, I was looking at this perfect storm of, oh my God, nobody's fighting for people like me and for people that are like the people who comprise my family. And so I said, okay, I'm going to run and I'm going to start now. So we started in April in this campaign, hitting the road hard and fast, because if the house is on fire, why do you wait 6 months to pick up the hose? And if you don't have the money that the GOP has in Northern Indiana, ultimately the person who wins is the person who gets the most votes. So I need to get in front of as many people as I
Yep.
possibly can, as many times as I possibly can, until they are comfortable not just voting for me, but telling other people about me. So that's who I am. That's why I'm running. I ran in 2020 because I knew the social issues that were facing our families and I knew what they needed. And I'm a problem solver with a business degree and I understand ROI and I understand macroeconomics and I know how money works, and it pisses me off.
Trump doesn't know what any of those terms
No,
mean.
he has no idea. And I'm starting to believe that the people who have the power of the purse don't either, because either they don't care or they don't know.
Right. I mean,
Yeah,
besides being horrible in every other way,
Right.
like Kristi Noem just keeps spending money on stuff that she doesn't have,
Mhm.
in almost like there's no such thing as a budget. It's go ahead,
We
David.
keep allowing her to do so,
Yeah.
right?
Kelly, is there a primary challenge that you face in Indiana, or do you
I
basically
am
go
the
right into the
only
general election?
Democratic congressional candidate without a primary challenger. We had a couple, however, they chose to run in different districts. So, I think it's because we started in April. It'd be really hard to catch up to me right now. I've gone from no Facebook followers to 61,000. People know who I am. They know why
Wow.
I'm running, and they're excited about it. So,
So, who's your Republican opponent in the general election? Is
okay.
it an incumbent?
Yep.
Who
Yep.
is it?
We have Marlon Stutzman. He is the incumbent. He is being challenged in a primary. However, this man has run before and not done very well. So I really do think that it's going to come down to Representative Stutzman and myself. Um,
Wasn't he a congressman previously at some point?
he
Yeah.
was, except he misused campaign funds for a family vacation, and so his own party told him he needed to get out of town, or else they were going to,
Right.
get
And
him in
then Trump got elected and they're like, we don't actually have any
Well,
rules
Jim
at all.
Banks then moved to senator, and there was a void, and they're like, "Hey, everybody's forgotten. Nobody remembers what you did." And so they got him back in. But the truth of the matter is people have not forgotten. He's in the very northeast corner of the state, and those people have not forgotten, and they're mad. I was at a dinner the other day full of 500 people eating dinner, and all of 8 people quietly admitted to me that they were Democrats. And one of the Republicans came up to me and he said, "I've given money to Jim Banks and Todd Young, those are our 2 senators, and Marlon Stutzman. I'll never give them another penny. Where can I send you a check?" People are pissed, and rightly so, and I am here to fight for them.
And that's
What's
why
the
I
message?
okay.
What's the message that you find is working against Stutzman in particular, but also just sort of in general?
Well, the thing about Marlon Stutzman is he is a Trump yes man. That is all he's got. He's not done one thing. He doesn't show up. He won't show up to a town hall. He holds, like when I was at that event that I just told you where there were 500 people there and all of 8 were Democrats. They asked me, well, who are you running against? And I said, Marlon Stutzman. And they said, is he here? Because it was a meet the candidates night in his backyard when Speaker Mike Johnson had sent everybody home. So he could have and should have shown up, but he did not. So the thing is people are mad that they have a representative that they can't find.
Right. And that's pretty normal these days. I'm sure they're all sort of waiting by their phone, the bat phone for Donald Trump to call them and tell them what they need to do with the rest of their day.
Here's the thing. Why would he show up when he's terrified?
Yeah.
He's terrified of standing in front of the people he's supposed to be representing when he's not doing the job. He can't answer their questions because he only has Donald Trump talking points. So he has no message of his own. I would be scared too if I was him.
So as somebody, I mean, you know, I'm not currently a consultant. I'm not working any campaigns or anything of that nature, but did for a lot of years, at least 2 decades plus. You know, just for people, for context, during a normal election year, because I believe your district is something like R plus 15 or something of that nature, we'd look at it and we'd be like, she seems terrific, which you do, by the way. But it just is, you just can't overcome that. And what I need people to understand this year is if we can protect the vote, and that is going to be a battle because we know Trump will try to cheat every way possible. But if we can protect the vote, these are the places, these districts, that race we won in Texas. Was it the state Senate race, the Miami mayor's race? There was a state senator, state house race in Iowa. These have all been 30, 32, 35 point switches. And if you do the math on that, that would, that means somebody might have lost by 16 and then comes back and barely wins. So this is a district with a good candidate, which we have, that is absolutely in the realm of we can win it.
Absolutely. Absolutely, because it's not just about me being the best candidate, which I am, or my having actually sat down and thought out policy to solve problems and have them listed on my website for people to read. It's not just a matter of the fact that when I get in front of people, they understand who I am and why I'm running, and that I have no pretense of being a perfect politician. I'm just a people that is running for a job that's supposed to be of the people, by the people, for the people, right? And I understand what we need, and I will not be intimidated, and I will not back down, because these are my grandbabies that we're talking about, and I need to say Mimi tried. But the truth of the matter, the tipping point that we are looking at right now is that our federal government is betraying us at every turn. We can't even accurately list the amount of times they have blown through our Constitution, the amount of times that they have completely disregarded the suffering of the people in this country. So I'm being invited to places like campuses, university campuses, high schools are asking me to come in and speak to their young progressives groups and things. And I'm talking to these people and I'm listening to them and I'm wanting to know what's on their mind. And universally, they are pissed because they see us failing them. And they're mad, and they vote, and they're ready to vote. This is a time like none other.
No,
I was going to ask you, I mean, I think you sort of laid it out, but we talk a lot on the show about whether it's, the war in Iran, or whether it's the strikes against, Venezuela without congressional authority, or whether we talk about the Epstein files, or whether we talk about the economy, or simply Donald Trump's disregard for institutions and for the Constitution. It sounds like that's pretty high up on the list now.
So are the Epstein files, right? So are the cruelty that they see happening in Cuba right now. I was at Purdue Fort Wayne campus on Monday, just a couple days ago, and I put posters up around this area, and I just put, I want to know what do you think about Epic Fury? And I just left Sharpie markers out, and I've got 4.
Wait, do you mean Epstein Fury? Sorry.
Exactly. Nope. See, here's the thing, because I told him, when I was talking to him, I said, I don't want to talk to you about it. I want you to write what you feel. Because I don't want to be accused of having influenced this generation. They don't need to hear from me. They see what's happening. It's supposed to be, we listen to them, not the other way around. That's our whole problem, right?
You said how many responses did you get?
Oh, hundreds.
That is a good sign. Yeah,
I mean, wait to go write down what was going on, and they were some of them so succinct as stop killing babies, stop killing children, take care of us first, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, cut SNAP programs and, let everybody who wants to own an Uzi, and these are great things for children, for the supposed pro-life party.
Right.
Have you found that, so you mentioned that one, I believe it was a gentleman, Republican gentleman who came up to you. Have you found other Republicans? Obviously, in your district, you're gonna need to win a solid chunk of Republicans. At this point, there's something like, I mean, it may be even up to 25%, but it was at least 20 in that recent poll where Trump was at like 37% who disapproved of him.
Yep.
So are you finding yourself on a message? It sounds like you're talking about the Constitution, you're talking about economics, so a combination of things, which I think is
So those
about
are the
right.
things I'm talking about. But
Yes.
remember that I understand that my job as a representative is to listen. And so when I meet people at any gathering that I go to, I want to hear from them. And so I'm hearing from farmers who are
Yeah.
so mad that they got totally sold out by this administration, these soybean farmers. They had a
Yeah.
promise before they planted in this very wet spring. Will you have this tariff situation figured out before we go to market with our harvest? They were promised that they would, and they did not. And so now they've been promised this bailout that is, if it's coming, so long in coming, and such a small amount of money that
Right.
it won't even. We had a call to our campaign about a farmer who got off the phone, his farm bureau phone meeting, found out that the bailouts weren't coming, stacked all of his bills up on his table, walked out to his barn, and took his own life.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that somehow. That's so
Okay.
sad.
But I tell this story because the loss of that young man's life needs to matter. We are not chess pieces in this game that Washington is playing. These are lives. They matter. So to tell his story, as powerful and as sad as it is important. And those are the tipping points, because he's not the only one. We know that. Some are
Oh,
suffering,
no,
some are
absolutely.
bankruptcies, but there is catastrophic suffering happening on every front, and everything is connected. As a problem solver at heart, it's so frustrating to me because the answer seems so simple. And so the only reason we don't have those answers is because the people in charge don't give a damn or are being paid off.
Right.
That's
I've taken this sort of, and I wonder what your feelings are on this, to pointing out that, there's been a separation, a bifurcation between the haves and have-nots in the past. We obviously have had, and certainly those issues have become greatly exacerbated since Reagan's policies in the 80s and certain other policies along the way. But right now, it's not even so much a bifurcation as it's sort of, it's like this, and I refer to them as what they are, this group of predators who, it's not just the Epstein predators, although a lot of these are the same people, but
exactly
these private equity vultures, these sort of these vultures who where they rip you off with their monopolies, Amazon and whatever, all of
right,
whom support Trump. That
right.
we have, as I would call it, this predator economy and really democracy. They also prey on democratic institutions, among other things, and farms and your home. And so it's like this group of these well-connected predator billionaires and monopolists around Trump.
Mhm.
I mean, do you feel like talking about it in that kind of a manner?
Well,
Because even people, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, in my mind, this level of wealth hoarding is sociopathic, right? If you can have more money than you could spend in 1,000 lifetimes, and there are hungry children, and you don't spend that money to help hungry children, there's something wrong with you. You're not right in the head. The problem is they all hang out together, and the money that they have is not even understandable. We can't grasp those dollar amounts, and neither can they. It's simply a I've got more than you, I've got more than you.
Right.
Basically, at the root of all of this is fear. It's a fear of insignificance and a fear of not being the richest or not being on your way to become the richest. And so that greed, yes, it's predatory. It's also cancerous. It is so destructive. When we talk about taxing the rich, because I understand macroeconomics and the power of a fiat sovereign currency, I know I don't actually need their money to get done what we need to get done, but they cannot continue to have that level of money because it's a danger to our democracy. They
Right.
are in charge because they control the show.
There's an effort out there, and I think it's a legislation that's being introduced in both the Senate by Bernie Sanders and in the House maybe by Ro Khanna that would essentially be a 5% tax on billionaires.
Exactly.
And there's some controversy over that because there's some Democrats who say, well, that could hurt some businesses and industries. But where do you come down on something like that?
Yeah, no, it's not going to hurt any businesses or industries. I just read an article about it today, and the billionaire that they used as an example, it was like it's going to cost them $12 billion. That's going to leave them with $284 billion or something. That's plenty of
I'm
money for
sorry.
them to continue to do what they're doing. Did I lose you?
No, I put up something. I
That's
guess
fine.
there's too many of us in here for me to do it, and I want to get rid of this thing because this was not what I wanted. Although this thing was pretty cool too. But there was something I clicked on the wrong thing that
That's okay.
when I'll just read it. It went along the lines of what you
Sure.
said, and I've kind of kept it in front of me because I felt like this is perfect, right? If a man has an apartment stacked to the ceiling with newspapers, we call him crazy. If a woman has a trailer house full of cats, we call her nuts. But when people pathologically hoard so much cash that they impoverish the entire nation, we put them on the cover of Fortune magazine and pretend that they are role models. And I kind of
Elect
keep
them to
this
office. Right.
on my desktop to remind me of how sick it is. People that hoard that much money. It's sickening.
Exactly. It is sickening and it's dangerous. That's what we have to understand. So I'm running on a platform right now, and I've been endorsed by something called the Backpack, and I don't know if you understand what that is yet, but it's in order to sign on with this group, we needed to ascribe to 5 tenets. One was there will be no stock trading for people who are in Congress. You shouldn't be allowed to do that. We already know that Congress people are getting rich off of Raytheon right now because they knew ahead of time, right? Hey, we're
Right.
about to go to war, so let's go ahead and buy these stocks. That should never happen. We have to put some checks and balances on the Supreme Court. You have to wait 5 years after you leave office before you can become a lobbyist. Why anyone would want to be a lobbyist, I have no idea. Overturn Citizens United and term limits, right? So those are the 5 things that we had to ascribe to. All of those I am for, because if you understand how democracy works, all of those are an integral part of a working,
Yep.
functional democracy, right? So here's what I tell people all the time. We have been electing people to power who have not felt our pain. And so when they get there, they are there for self-interest. They are there to exalt themselves. They are there to feel
Yep.
I'm significant, I'm powerful, I'm somebody. Get rid of those people on both sides of the aisle. They've got to go. Get out of the way and let's start electing normal people to office. People like me who's had her home in foreclosure. We have a concrete contracting business. In 2008, when the housing bubble burst, all of a sudden all of our contracts got pulled and I had to make a decision. Am I going to keep my home or am I going to keep my boom truck and my wall forms in order to continue to work once the market does come back? These are hard decisions. I had a family of 6 kids, my husband and myself, and 2 kids that weren't mine, going to the store with a $20 bill, trying to figure out how I can get peanut butter jelly and bread. And I finally
Right.
realized peanut butter is too fucking expensive. You can't have peanut butter. Okay.
Right. So you get it because you're not
I get it.
helicoptering from
No.
your country club to, your
No.
tennis club to your, I mean, seriously, these people are so separate from the rest of us
Mhm.
and they can't. So, I mean, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. Before David has to leave, I have to ask you a big question because I would love to hear the answer to it because you brought up the fact of some Democrats in there too. I view the Democratic Party as much better, obviously, by about 1,000,000%. There are some corporate Democrats in there. There are some people that screw us over on major votes and whatever. That leads me to there's a guy in the House who's the current leader. What are your thoughts on whether that person should be leader again? Whether we were to win a majority, which I think we will, or whether even if we didn't. What are your thoughts on?
He needs to go. Sorry, I'm flat out. No.
All right, you got me.
Yep.
You had me at hello.
So, yep. I have a replacement in mind, and it's not me. But he needs to go. We need a fighter. We need to look at who's taking APAC money. We needed to look at who's taking dark money. We got to get Israel out of our government. We got to stop being Israel's bitch. To be honest with you, I'm ready to be the global good guy, and so we need some heart in there. And so I'm sorry, some of those people got to go.
I think I kind of feel like we're a little bit more Russia's bitch than Israel, but there's definitely a lot of bitchiness there. There's no doubt.
Maybe I would have said that a year ago, but after launching what we just did in Iran, I'm starting to question.
Oh yeah, Bibi may be the only
Well, Kelly, I have to
elected
tell you that I mean the
fascist worse
last
than Trump.
we have a pretty good track record of Blue Ant Media of propelling candidates to success. Cliff, I just saw that Hallie Schaffner, who was actually in a competitive primary in Arkansas for the Senate, she just won 80-20. Now, Kelly, you don't have a primary, but I'm pretty sure that being on Blue Ant Media is going to give you at least a 30-point boost.
It has to.
Northeastern
I
Indiana.
was going to bring up Haley, by the way, David, because she's the story you told, Kelly, was Haley Schaffner's running there, sixth-generation farmer. They bankrupted her farm. Tim Cotton voted against the farm bills and then joined in, kissed Trump's ass on the tariffs. And I love the state because I looked at it and I was like, Arkansas plus 16 Republican. Well, that's the kind of state. I mean, she's just like you, is somebody who you listen to and you immediately know that this is the right person to run because they're a real person.
And running for the right reasons.
Yes. And Kelly, where can people find you? I mean, I know we got your website up there, but what can people do to help your campaign in addition to giving money? What can people do?
So this is what I need you to do, people. If you want to help me get elected and people like me, wherever you are, you need to go to my Facebook page and click follow. Go to my Twitter, go to my Instagram, go to my TikTok, hit follow, because what that does is it prompts the algorithm to show my stuff to people that you know that I might never get in front of. Whether you live in my district or not, I've gotten donations from all over this country because this country understands that when people like me get to office, I'm fighting for the entire country, right? So if you're watching this right now and you think that I'm a person that you would like to have representing you in Washington, D.C., then please consider $5, $10 a month to please help me get there. I am not taking any dark money, no APAC money, of course. I want to be a candidate that shows up in Washington, D.C., and when they look at my reports, they say, this is somebody that her people are watching her. And they understand who I work for. And the best way is that when they see that those donations are grassroots donations from the people that I intend to represent while I'm there, because I will be accountable to you.
So no big oil money and NRA money then.
Nope.
I'm just, I had faith. So Kelly, David has to run and get his kids because we are regular people too.
I
can talk to you another 5 minutes or 10 minutes if you'd like to stay.
Sure. You betcha.
Kelly, I'll just say good luck to you. We're so glad that you were on the show. Anything that Cliff and I can do to help you, we're there. Next time we're in Indiana, we're coming to Northeast Indiana to canvas for you and go door to door.
That'd be great.
Or David, you have a
Thanks,
David, you throw a fundraiser down in Bloomington, and maybe she can come down.
Right.
Yes, that would be
Thanks,
great.
Cliff, good show. Thank you. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you, David. Take care, bud.
Thank you, David.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, I'm glad he brought up the story of Haley Schaffner. I saw that she had won because, again, this is somebody that she was almost thrust into the arena. She, we interviewed her a while back and she had no intention of running. She's going to run her family farm like the other generations previous, 5 had done. And the taco tariff policies plus the other stupidity of Trump and Cotton got her into that mess. So, I mean, it's refreshing to hear you say this because, again, look, FDR was very wealthy. JFK was very wealthy. It's not to say that there aren't some folks who are very wealthy and still are regular people and are terrific people. But overall, the more people we have like you, like Haley and whatever, who understand what a regular life is like and the pressures of it, I just think that inevitably has to lead to better results because you're not separated from what happens in our economy.
No, if we've actually felt the pain, then when we hear stories of suffering and struggle, we don't meet those stories with the shame and the blame that the people who've never felt that pain meet it with. They will say to you, well, do better, work harder. If you don't like that pay, get a different job. They don't understand the struggles that are in front of people. They don't understand the limited supply of good paying jobs. They don't understand that a good paying job might only work you 20 hours a week to avoid paying benefits. They just don't understand the hardships. Or you have people like my parents who worked their whole life. They're just fine. But my mom ends up with stage 4 breast cancer, ends up with a complication due to her chemo, tries to get her home health care that she needs, finally gets it approved from United Healthcare, only to find out that the 3 people who would provide that for her won't work with United Healthcare because United Healthcare won't pay them.
Our system is such a ridiculous joke that, I mean, honestly, I've talked about this on here before, how I had a procedure I had to have on my elbow that cost like 900. It was estimated for me that already I was going to have to pay 900 something out of my pocket, right?
Right.
And I was like, okay, I can do that. And then I got another bill for about 6,300 in the mail, and I was like, what the fuck? And I
Right.
called the hospital, and they said to me, their answer was not shock. It was, don't worry, you're not going to have to pay it. We actually have a team of people here to deal with these because they happen all the time. So imagine that I got charged more probably at this hospital because they have to pay a team of people to shoot down what in the end is a con game by
Exactly right.
insurance to try to extract more money out of people. I
Exactly
mean,
right.
I don't care. I mean, there's Germany and Belgium, and there's others that have a multi-payer system where they regulate the hell out of private companies, and then they have like a public option that competes, which I think would force the others. There's single-payer systems. There's others. I don't care what it is, but in Obamacare, I think in its how it was envisioned before they put their Supreme Court on to destroy as many aspects of it as they could.
Right.
Did a pretty good job and was a great step to get there, but we just need a universal healthcare system, and
We
that's
need
it.
it. We need it, and
I mean,
you can't just provide a universal healthcare system without an education policy that helps us get the techs, the nurses, the doctors, everybody that
of
we need
course,
to fuel that system, right? That's what I mean when I say everything is connected. If we go and we just fix one thing, we might create another problem, which is going to make our fix look bad. So we have to communicate to the American people, this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. Give us a beat here. It's going to catch up and we're going to be okay.
right?
But we have to start. We call that being progressive, and somehow the word progress has gotten a bad rap. What
Right. Well,
what
that's stupid people demonize the word, but I mean, you're right, and all that's interrelated. Again, the people, oh, I don't use the government for anything. Yeah, you drive on the roads and we pave them. If we don't have infrastructure, which is why I think that bill that Joe Biden got passed was essential, and
Absolutely.
the fact that he got Republicans on board, because he got them to do what was in their own interest. I know because there's this leader of the Senate who I think is more responsible for the mess we're in than Donald Trump, named Mitch McConnell, who destroyed our judiciary, who got money throughout politics, who did all these kinds of things.
Yep.
And there are two bridges connecting Cincinnati to northern Kentucky that were structurally unsound. Like there are others, but like there was all this traffic because nobody wanted to drive all over them because at one point a big chunk of one of them fell off. I mean, that we're supposed to be this country. We sent people to the fucking sorry, whatever, but we sent people to the moon. We sent
Yep.
a guy to
And
walk on the
send them again.
moon. We built the Hoover Dam, but we can't fix bridges. So
Right.
to me, it's all, as you're saying, it's whether it's health, and that includes mental health. It's,
Absolutely.
education, it's infrastructure, it's all of these things,
It's jobs. None of this is impossible, and all of it is very possible
oh my God, we just
and
need to
doable.
kick the damn greedy people out, as you said, the combination of lobbyists and predators and billionaires and whoever,
Yeah,
where,
this is the
there's
difference.
plenty of money for all the rest of this stuff if we do that.
Yes. And this is something I don't wanna leave without pointing out that this we talked about how this is a time like none other, is that the the people are figuring out how much power they have. I don't know if you paid attention to Indiana's, Donald Trump called and wanted to do this mid-cycle
I
redistricting here
I
in
did. I was
Indiana.
very
Do you
proud
believe
to
that?
see. Yep.
Yeah. Fought hard. I testified on the Senate floor against it, and I was number 1 to testify because I got there at the crack of dawn to make sure I got my spot, but the people are figuring out that the power that we have is very great, that the power of the people is greater than the people in power, as the saying goes, right?
Yep.
And so because of all of this pain that we're in, I'm thinking that if if normal people get elected to office and we communicate effectively with each other what we need and what we're doing, we go to Washington, D.C., we fight for what we need. And then when we go into those meetings, I mean, I've told my district, this is what I'm going to do. Hi, guys, it's Kelly Thompson. I'm walking into this meeting. We're going to talk about childcare. Go into the meeting, come back out. This is what we got done, or this is what we didn't get done. And this is who's in our way. And then it will let the entire country know who voted down childcare. And why?
That's what that's another
One.
project we need. Name them and shame them. Members of
Exactly.
Congress, corporations, whoever it may be, we need to be calling out these people. I think our producer, I was on his show earlier, Lawrence. Well, Lawrence. That's
I
how we
do.
know you.
I do. Yep.
Who was pointing out to people about open AI and
Yep.
how they are now supporting the so-called Department of War. So everybody get away from Chat GPT and move. If you're doing
Yep.
this, move over to Claude.
Yep.
Go somewhere where it's a system that stood up to them and said no.
Yes.
And that's
That's
an
our power.
important part too. Yes.
That is our power. Our
So
dollars matter.
it does. I mean, really does with a lot of these corporations. So let me ask you one last question, and then I'll let you go. I'm just interested in this. You said up till 2016 you were a Republican, obviously.
Mhm.
Were you a Republican because you said your church told you? Were you more apolitical and you just kind of voted Republican because you trusted your church and you were going there and that's who they were or whatever? Or did you have specific sort of conservative or whatever you'd like to call them beliefs that have changed over the last
Yep.
decade that really moved you?
Thanks for this question because you're making me think a minute. Because the quick pat answer is church told me to. I believed the lie that doing the socially just thing was the fiscal irresponsible thing. And once I figured out that that's bullshit,
Yeah.
um, like I talked about childcare, that the ROI on childcare is 10 to 1.
Oh, it's incredible. Yeah.
So we are losing money
Yep.
by not taking care of our kids. So once I figured this out, I started to go, okay, there's a crack. Oh, and there's a crack. Oh, and there's a crack. And I started thinking more critically about what was going on for myself. I guess I just shifted my brain into drive from
Right.
neutral. And I
So it
started
was more passive. You just weren't thinking about it as much, I guess.
I guess I wasn't thinking. I mean, I had 6 kids and 2 others living here that
Listen,
were
that's not a bad. I'm
busy.
not insulting you.
But
Like,
it was
we,
also my kids who got me to change because they
good for
called out
them.
the hypocrisy, and they were smart and articulate, and they would come to me and go, "Mom, that doesn't line up. Even with church, this doesn't line up." And I had to listen to them. And these were people that even though we disagreed, I was unwilling to break connection with. And so I learned that skill of how to stay connected with people who think differently than I do, and it woke me up. And I am
Right.
so glad. They call me Kelly 1.0 or Kelly 2.0, and they like Kelly 2.0 better, and so do I.
Well, even if you're going to church, what they're talking about, I'll just say, I mean, I
Mhm.
I I don't know the New Testament perfectly. I do know, however, that likely Jesus would not be a fan of a preemptive war against Iran. Um,
Exactly.
the stuff about hanging out with lepers and and helping people that were poor and the difficulty for wealthy folks to get into heaven and about a million other things that Jesus said, turning the other cheek,
Yep.
would make you think that maybe a preemptive war of choice that ends up murdering people is really not the way to go. So,
While I was watching the news this morning, I was reminded of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, and when the soldiers, he had just done that praying and bleeding and all of that stuff, and the soldiers showed up, and Peter drew his sword and struck him and cut the soldier's ear off, and Jesus chastised him, picked up the ear, and put it back on the soldier.
yep.
That's
Well,
Jesus.
that's the message. I mean, that right there in a nutshell, that's the message of the New Testament, which is why
Exactly.
all these guys who claim that they're Christian and believe all of this, it's an absolute joke because
No.
you can't. All
Yep.
right.
Nope.
So
Yep.
let's remind you, you're obviously, I don't need to even speak for you. You've shown the passion you have, the charisma you have, that if we're going to win some races and plus 14, 15, 16 districts this time, and if we have the kind of win that we should have, which people like us are going to try to force better messaging on certain leaders of the Democratic Party. But luckily, there are other ones going around them and speaking out now, and you hear it from your Ted Lieu's and your AOCs and your Swalwells and you're from all sorts of wings of the party. You hear people speak. If we have that kind of a night, yours is a district. Clearly, we have the quality of candidate, or where we can win. And I'd
That's
say we
true.
have a good shot. So before we let you go again, remind everybody once again, one more time, the best spots to find you if you have a few that you'd prefer they go to over others, or however, let
I
them know.
post videos all the time, and I share them across all the platforms. So, Facebook, Kelly Thompson for Congress. I think my TikTok is Kelly for Indiana, and Instagram, I think, is Kelly for Indiana. I'm not really sure, but if you Google me, you'll find me. You'll find the op-eds I've written.
And,
You'll see other podcasts I'm on, and you'll get to know who I am.
and the website too, right? Because they
Yep,
can give
Kelly
money.
Thompson for Congress.com.
There you go. KellyThompsonForCongress.com. You can find
Right.
all her other platforms. This has been an excellent hour with two excellent folks. Jonathan Larson, who broke a story that related to what we were just talking about, that we're fighting war for Armageddon in Iran, according to certain commanders in the military, because they're nuts. And he's a terrific writer and producer. And then we've gotten to talk to Kelly Thompson, running for Congress as a Democrat in the 3rd District of Indiana, who, as you can tell, I don't know if I even say firebrand, but passionate and charismatic and clearly smart, a small business owner, somebody who actually is a normal human who understands people's pain and would feel it too. And we need more people like that in Congress. So thank you for being here, Kelly.
Thank you.
This has been great talking to you. I now know why Lawrence left that meeting and was so excited after seeing you. And you know, these are the people we need to support, everybody. I wanted to thank everybody for tuning in to another edition of Amped Up, our new schedule. We're just doing the Amped Up show on Wednesday. I do the show just so you all remember. Thursday night, as in tomorrow night, is Tequila Talk with Joe Walsh, which is a Democrat and a Republican who talk about things. Just what we have in common is we both believe in the Constitution. I know Trump is basically evil. No, basically. And so we'll be drinking our sips of tequila and discussing some of the great things, some of the interesting things, certain things that happen in Texas, certain things that are going on in Iran and other stuff this week. And I've got a special coming up with Wajahat Ali at 1:30 on Friday for anybody who wants to tune in. So that'll be fun too. Kelly, thank you for being here. Keep fighting. Keep sounding the way you sound right now, please. And we'll all want to support you. Good luck with everything. And let us, seriously, as David said, let us know if there's any way that we can be helpful in the future. We'll have you back on. That's one way.
But that'll be great. Yes, anytime. Let us know.
But that's it, folks. My usual sign off. As the sun sets slowly in the west, we bid you a fond farewell. Thank you for being here.